right, welcome. It's Friday. Week 1 is about ready to get in the books of the Ohioan podcast. Craig, what a week. Have you survived?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I woke up a little extra tired here for some reason,
Okay.
but I'm ready to go. It's Friday. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Got some work to do after we're done here, but I'm ready to go it's Friday. I'm ready to go.
Same here. Same here. We're missing Brandon today. Brandon's not feeling well, and we hope he'll be back on Monday. It happens. It's the season to be sick, and like I said, Brandon's a little under the weather, but like I said, we look forward to seeing him on Monday. Yeah, just some promotional. My MVP of yesterday, Craig, was my friend Trey Ryder from the American Cornhole League and ESPN. He asked me to send him a link. I sent him a link. He posted it 10 seconds literally after I sent him. I sent him like at 7 a.m. yesterday. So, Trey, major props to you. If you haven't checked out the podcast yet, check out yet. From yesterday, he talks about cornhole and the growth of the sport and the fact that it's going to be on CBS now, too. So, man, cornhole is going to have more TV network deals than the NFL pretty soon.
That's exciting. I mean, I have to admit that I've caught myself watching it. I've played cornhole, like I think every other Ohioan maybe has, but I have caught myself watching it on ESPN when it's been on, and I think it has a chance to, expand its audience here on CBS. I'm kind of curious to see how popular cornhole is nationally. I mean, I think we think of it like tailgating, and we definitely do it in Ohio, but I'm kind of curious to see if like a lot of other states have cornhole for tailgating or just for backyard fun.
Well, and he said it's growing. I think it's a tribute to them because I know part of the way they got on TV was they were a sport when no other sports were going on. But the fact that ESPN renewed it, the fact that they're still continuing, the factor with CBS, I mean, I think that's a really good thing. And then this morning, what we've tried to do, originally when we came up with this podcast, we were thinking about doing an interview at the end. But we felt we didn't want to make the podcast too long. We didn't want to shorten this part of the podcast. So we said, why not make 2 separate episodes? So it's still the Ohioan podcast. It's still the same thing. So what we're trying to do is release 2 a day. One is what we're doing right now. And the second one would be just like an interview. And Craig, we recorded this one a couple weeks back, but we talked to the great Tom Stoff from Columbus Zoo. He's the CEO president there, and we released it this morning. So yeah, check that out. Craig and I visited with him, and I tell you, Tom's a great guy. We talked about the retirement of Jack Hanna. Lots of great stories about Jack Hanna. And some insight to what the zoo is expecting for 2021. I mean, definitely changed what happened last year with COVID, and COVID's still going to be around for a while. So Tom's talking about how the zoo is adjusting, and kind of scary time for the zoo. Zoo lost a lot of money because they thrive on the mission, and obviously a mission was a little bit tougher during the time of COVID. So that should be good too. Let me do a couple of ads to start out with. Again, however you're looking at this episode, and I appreciate, I know we're starting small. I know we're not Joe Rogan after the first week, but I'm seeing people are listening. I really appreciate that. I will say you can connect with us on social media. We have a lot of links. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching this on one of the podcast providers, connect with us there. Join our Patreon page. I got to say, I've been slammed at work this week, so I haven't got to update Patreon as much as possible. But it's a good way of keeping updated with the show. You can send us ideas and support us. Geez, we're doing this 5 days a week. We've given you probably an hour and a half to 2 hours of content each day. Least you could do is support us with $3 a month. I think it's well worth that. And then check out our sponsors. Chase Bank, again, you open up a bank account, you accept direct deposit, you get $200. I mean, just as easy as that. And also, Manly Man Company. Craig, I got to get this guy back on with us sometime. It's a unique company that offers gifts for the man in your life. So, Man Bouquet, and what Man Bouquet is a bunch of like beef jerky and meat and everything. So it's gifts with the guy in your life, dad, husband, whatever the case might be. Click the link, and if you buy something, it'll help us out. Ashley Home Store. Hey, if you need some furniture, check that out. And then Caribbean Apparel. Again, Our clothes are boring. I showed you guys one day. I have like 10 of the same type of Dockers. I'm boring. Caribbean apparel, check it out. Lots of island wear, beach wear, and hey, we're getting casual. We're all working from home. We need some Caribbean wear in life, so check that out. All right. Well, Craig, we talked yesterday about the U.S. Capitol. I'm seeing this on the TV behind me. And hey, it was good. We said some things that definitely need to be said. We took a nonpartisan standpoint. I mean, we're not looking at this from a Republican or Democratic viewpoint. Just the viewpoint I've discussed. Lots of icky things happening. I took it on some of the Facebook groups, going, "Why are you getting so political?" Well, we're not being political. We're just commenting on what's happening. And love him or hate him, the president had a part in the day. I'm not saying he was responsible, he was guilty, but a lot of stuff was happening there. So we're going to try to shy away from that, even though we led the show with that today. Let's talk about some other stuff. Craig, I sent you a story and Brandon's story yesterday. Kind of eventful week. Family videos are all closing. I think they're all done.
Yep.
They're having a going out of business sales. If you want some cheap DVDs, you need to stop by and check them out, or maybe some cheap video games too. Here's the angle I wanted to take on the story. There was an article that was written by the Akron Beacon Journal, which I thought was interesting, where it was talking about the closure of family videos, but it was also talking about how libraries aren't really taking the place, but they're a resource. Because sometimes a family video, you're like, well, where can I get cheap videos? I'm not spending $20 on every DVD or anything else. And it was interesting to see how the libraries are now kind of stepping up. This particular article talked about the Akron Public Library. I know Columbus has some libraries that do video games and books and everything else. I thought it was interesting. I like the fact that the library is being proactive and doing things that are a little bit more contemporary. And I think that helps make the libraries relevant. I guess that's the takeaway I took from it.
Yeah, I mean, and I've done some stories over the past few years from some of our local libraries that have stepped up as far as not just offering DVDs, rentals, and things like that, but also, getting partnerships with streaming services to allow people to download music or have access to other movies that are available for streaming that maybe they wouldn't carry necessarily or be able to carry in their library physically. So libraries have really kind of burst onto this 21st century mindset. And at this point, I would actually have to think, and I'm going to be probably doing a story here in the next week or so on maybe libraries gaining some popularity because of the family videos closing. In my area, we actually have a family video here in Fremont and in Sandusky where I live. So we have two family video stores that have closed down, and obviously COVID has put sort of a damper on people visiting the library, but hopefully this will maybe inspire the library to get a little bit more business, or maybe people signing up for a library card so they can stream some of the content that they have partnerships with.
Yeah, and as always, check out Craig. I know not everybody who watches or listens to the show is from Fremont, but right here you see on the screen Craig Schaup.
Yeah. NH News Herald. Back when I first got hired, I was at Port Clinton News Herald, our sister paper, and went with the NH for that. So
right. So and even better yet, if you can subscribe to Fremont News Messenger, that's great. I understand not everybody can do that, especially if you live outside Fremont. But check him on Twitter. He tweets out his articles, and you can follow him more there. That'd be great. I agree. I think it's interesting. I like it from the aspect of the library is like, there's a lot of people who talk about how they offer good internet service. So for families who don't have access to the internet, you can go to the library and do that. I feel bad for family video. I mean, I remember going there to rent some videos and games, but I gotta be honest, it's like out of date businesses, because right now, Netflix and Hulu and all this other stuff, you can download and you can stream a bunch of videos. So I just didn't see how that could maintain. I mean, I know family video, they were having some like pizza shops that were in there, and they were trying to do some cross promotion and everything. And I salute family video for trying, but it's just, it's a service that you can't really blame the libraries, but just with the advent of the internet and streaming, it just that concept just kind of went out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, there's this really infamous tweet from Blockbuster when, if we all remember, Blockbuster used to be around. And I just pulled it up here, actually, from September 21st, 2011. Tweet us why you're leaving Netflix. The top 3 most creative tweets using "Goodbye Netflix" will win a 1-year subscription to Blockbuster. And obviously, this would go under the poorly aged item Twitter account. Certainly, Blockbuster maybe underestimated the power of Netflix, and I think maybe to some degree we all kind of did. I remember one of my best friends, his dad actually, I didn't know what Netflix was until his dad actually started getting the DVDs in the mail and everything. And streaming services have just, bombarded places like Family Video, Blockbuster, other rental areas with content that they just can't match. I mean, you can go into a store. I went into the Fremont store that we had to do a story in the spring to see how they were coping with COVID and what business was like. And interestingly enough, the Family Video that we had in Fremont would actually sell CBD products. So they had CBD oils and things like that. I don't know if every other one did, but I had asked the manager there why they sold or what's the deal, because they were promoting it. I mean, they weren't shying away from it on the outside. They would have like CBD oil here, and she basically said that, the owner used it after he had an injury and it worked really well for him. So he wanted to make that an offering in Fremont. So it was kind of a unique aspect. I know you had said some pizza places were kind of partnering up with them and opening up and, trying to share some business. But that was sort of one strange aspect that I found during my time with Family Video here in Fremont.
Well, I used a picture from another place on one of my store on the podcast picture, and it has CBD oil too. So unless that was the Fremont one, maybe some other places are doing it.
Sure.
Who knows? Maybe Family Video could be the medical marijuana place. They could have sold medical marijuana, and you could rent a video at the same time.
Right. I mean, that would have
been saved Family Video.
Yeah. You probably would have had a lot of like rentals of Dazed and Confused or like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back or something. I mean, it would have you would have had to stock up on certain video options, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, overall, as a movie guy, I never really was a huge renter. I'd actually rather just buy movies at times, especially when they got to a point where, they were relatively cheap. And if it was like if you could find it in the $9 bin or something at Best Buy or Circuit City at the time or Walmart or whatever, I would kind of rationalize buying it over renting it for even 99 cents for a couple of days. I don't know if Drug Mart still rents videos, but I know that growing up, I know Drug Mart used to rent videos as well. Not really sure if that's one of their options anymore. It's been a while since I've been in a Drug Mart, but maybe if someone out there knows that Drug Mart still rents videos, let us know. But that might be another option aside from, the libraries. And then also, of course, many Kroger and other places have the red boxes as well that you can rent from and grab a video there too. But, it's definitely a sign of the times that Family Video closes down.
Right, but you got to look at why. I mean, I guess Redbox is just, you don't have to hire employees or anything. It's probably a cash cow that way. But, to have a store, why have a video rental store anymore? It's almost beyond the point. I mean, I got to tell you, I still keep some DVDs and movies I really like. And I usually throw something on while I'm working. And when it's not this week, when there's U.S. Capitol news all week, sometimes I'll throw a movie on when I don't feel like I have to watch the news all day. And I got to tell you, Craig, I put some DVDs in. And I haven't watched a DVD for a while. And I got to tell you, frustrating as all get out. Because when you put that DVD in, it starts out. Have you ever seen DVDs where it'll start out with the trailer and you can't skip beyond the trailer? And it's not just the trailer for the movie you're watching, it's a trailer for every other movie. So it's almost like they want you to get the movie theater experience where if you go to a movie theater, there's, 10 minutes of trailers and you can't skip by them. Like, I've got the freaking DVD. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, I used to like that feature, but now in this era where you can watch a trailer on so many different forms, YouTube, IMDb, so many different areas you can find trailers for movies. And it's not, with all the cable options, with all the internet we have now, back in the early 2000s, it probably wouldn't have been a bad idea to kind of, piggyback some of those trailers on movies that it's sort of like you may also be interested for the old era, when you click on a movie on one of your streaming services and it goes down to the next section where you can say, oh, you might also be interested in this action movie if you're watching an action movie or comedy or whatever it may be. So, it's kind of like that was the old version of that. And, at times, I kind of liked it. It was kind of unique because maybe it showed you a movie that you didn't know existed, or, but nowadays everybody knows almost everything that exists because you can just get your hands on so much content.
Right. And the one thing that frustrates my wife is, like, she likes the Polar Express, and she's used to right now. I mean, I've got a DVD player in the office with my Xbox One, it plays DVDs, but she doesn't want to come down there to watch movies as much. And, like, she likes the Polar Express. That's her holiday tradition, watching the Polar Express. Well, it really wasn't on streaming services unless you wanted to pay a rental fee, which is just kind of rough. And I don't know. I love next time we have them on, the Thomas family. They're movie directors, and we had them on probably about 2 months ago. They were talking about this movie Shedding, and I love the fact it's on Amazon Prime. I hate the fact though that everything is extra money. Like, I would almost rather pay a premium to Amazon Prime to have everything for free. Now, again, I'm not asking for free content. I know they need money to keep making movies like that. I don't mean to be greedy, but I don't like you pay a certain amount and you have to pay more and more and more. I mean, I'd rather pay $20 and say, hey, everything that Amazon offers you is free. But that's just me. But oh well. So so it's interesting. Hopefully, Family Video isn't ticked at libraries, because the story wasn't saying, hey, libraries closed down Family Video, but it said, hey, don't worry, you can get this stuff at libraries. And man, Family Video's got to look at the libraries going, you jerks, you shortchange us.
Well, yeah, I agree, but I also think that it was probably impossible, though. It's probably impossible for any library, even a sizable one like an Akron or Columbus, to have everything that was offered at a Family Video, because bigger Family Videos, I think the one in the story said hundreds of DVDs and videos, and obviously video games are another thing. I don't know that many libraries offer video game rentals, and that's another thing. But there are video game services like GameFly and other places like that, the monthly fee to rent games as much as you want.
This story mentions that Akron does.
Yeah,
Columbus is interesting. I haven't gone to libraries since COVID started, but with Columbus, you have the the Worthington Library. I mean, I walk in there and there's hundreds of video games. It's amazing. And the cool thing about it is if you sit there and say, well, I want this particular video game, they have like a sharing agreement with libraries around Central Ohio where you might have to wait a week, but you can order it and it'll come to you. Right. And the nice thing about Worthington Library, I'll tell you this, 10-week rentals, unless somebody requests a game. So if you were, reserve a video game, it comes to you. You have it for 2 weeks, but it keeps on automatically renewing. So if no one else requests the same game, it's yours. Now you have to take it back or you have to pay for it. But man, 10-week rentals is great.
Yeah, that's a great option. And, because a lot of people, it's kind of like the sweet spot of, you can get everything done if you're playing some sort of a role-playing game or a game that has sort of a narrative structure to it. It would probably give you enough time to get through a 8 to 12 hour story that a game may lay out. Or I know you talked about sporting video games. That's my thing, is I'm a sports video game guy, so I like to play my franchise modes and everything like that. And it would probably give you some fun time to play a little bit in Madden or FIFA or NHL or MLB The Show.
Well, and the library has streaming video services too, so maybe the library is just coming after everybody. Libraries like, hey, people aren't borrowing as many books as possible, so let's just go after Family Video. Maybe they'll put news outlets too. I mean, the library's coming after us now.
I hope not.
We got to close libraries down.
Yeah, I know, right?
We're taking this podcast is an anti-library podcast. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, the libraries have had to adjust, and I think the streaming services. I did a story a few years ago, and I was kind of taken aback by that. I wasn't really aware that at least the smaller libraries, like when I did a story, it was on Port Clinton's library and in Fremont's library, and those are two smaller libraries in this area that I cover, and they offer the streaming services, and I thought that is very unique. And I think the biggest thing that surprised me at the time was, we were sort of in the still in the midst of the downloading music craze, and they had said that every week under this agreement that they have, you can download a song and it's yours. No questions asked, no no nothing illegal about it. It was simply just whatever song you want. You have to find it obviously within their library, and some songs they may not have, or they may have been edited, but nothing illegal about it. And it was kind of a unique thing that I had never really thought of with the library. And now they have, streaming services. I know that, a lot of them have very well-known movies. It's not like these are streaming service agreements that they have with movies that you've never heard of, or the movies that play at 3 a.m. on cable, or the movies that Nicolas Cage stars in. These are like real Oscar-winning movies and just popular movies, and it's a unique feature that has kept the libraries pretty relevant, I would say. Yeah,
very, very interesting. So farewell family video, and like I said, look out, the library's coming after you. That's my takeaway from here. Well, let's move on a little bit. This week, vaccinations are becoming a big deal. It's kind of the next step in the fight against COVID. Kind of interesting, and I'm reading this story just to understand exactly what's going on. We're based out of Ohio, obviously being an Ohioan, and they're saying that vaccinations of oldest Ohioans are going to start January 19th. And from what Governor Mike DeWine said, it looks like it's going to be 80 and older January 19th, and then each week will be 5 years younger. But the interesting thing is they're only expecting 100,000 doses of vaccine available each week. And you look at right now, there's 450,000 Ohioans 80 and older. So I'm interested in seeing what happens here. I know there's been some criticism about the administration and everything, talking about how why aren't there more vaccines available and everything else. And I'm glad Ohio has a plan. I'm not sure if that many people are going to be able to get them then. You know what I mean? Now, not everybody is offering to take a vaccine, but I thought it was interesting. And the other part of this, which was interesting, they're going to start offering vaccinations to school teachers, employees, and school districts willing to commit to in-person classes for students beginning March 1st. So if you get that vaccine, you need to have in-person class. So,
right. I was kind of, and maybe we can have a little discussion about this. I was kind of interested in this because I did a story this week on after Lieutenant Governor Husted had said, it's kind of like a pay for play. If you are willing to go back to full-time in person, then you'll be kind of at the top of the list for the vaccine. And I had talked to Fremont City School Superintendent John Detweiler, and one of the interesting things that struck me is they've kind of done some surveys and from staff and faculty on who would be interested in getting the vaccination, maybe at all, or at least as of right now. And, they haven't gotten all the numbers back yet, but, he was kind of anticipating just maybe like a 50%, acceptance of that. And I kind of thought that was interesting where, the state kind of implied that, if these schools do this, they can go back to full time, but they didn't really have any provisions about what percentage of staff would have to get vaccinated. Does it have to be 100% staff? Does it have to be 75%? Or is it just whoever decides to do it? And that's fine. But it doesn't sound like a lot of people are going to be interested in getting the vaccination. Like, the governor had said, 60% of workers in nursing homes have rejected getting the vaccine. So I kind of wonder if they're going to, maybe update. I'd love for, somebody at the State House question press conferences to ask, hey, does everybody in the school district have to get the vaccine for them to be able to go back to school 5 days a week?
Yeah. And there's a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot to figure out one time. The other thing I can't figure out for life of me is I understand the reluctance, for the vaccine. I think it's almost criminal if you're doing that just based on some wild conspiracy theory. But if you're really I have 2 kids. I'm feeling a little bit nervous for the kids taking the vaccine, not based on a conspiracy theory, but I want to make sure the kids are okay and everything. So I guess that's my pause, but it's weird because I'm seeing these stories about fire departments and people who work at nursing homes where it's 40 to 60% of the people who are working those places are actually taking the vaccine.
Right.
And that kind of surprises me. I mean, I'm not necessarily pro or anti-vaccine, but I'm kind of like, you would think those are the people that really need to take it. I mean, I'm a journalist that works from home.
Right.
So, yeah, if I get the vaccine, sure, I'll get it, but I don't have to have it. But when you're talking about people who work directly, first responders that aren't getting it, it makes me wonder. It's a little troubling because obviously you want your first responders to be able to not pass COVID along, I guess.
Yeah. Does it make you, and before I get into it, does it make you wonder about it, as in you're skeptical then because you're thinking, well, why would these health professionals say no to it? Or is it you're wondering like why they don't believe that it's worth getting? I mean, or is it a little bit of both?
Well, I come at it from a different perspective, and not to be silly, but I'm anti-shot. I don't like having shots. I'll go to the doctor. They'll be like, "Oh, it's time for your yearly whatever it is." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." So it's not. I guess maybe it's a conspiracy that I don't like shots. I mean, that's pretty much what the conspiracy is. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where it comes from me. I don't know. You get nervous sometimes when you hear about, how kids respond to vaccines and everything. And I guess that's our family is a little bit reluctant. But again, if it's helping keeping you safe, I mean, I think eventually we'll definitely get that. And, my wife's a teacher. She may need to take that soon, from what the story is saying.
Sure.
And she's not against it. It just, we're being a little cautious. We're being a little, chill and relaxed on it. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of agree that I was a little surprised to see the numbers. Like when, when I was talking to the superintendent, I figured, almost everybody would be on board. Or, I was surprised when the governor said 60% of nursing home staff just don't want it. And that's also made like my wife and myself skeptical. Like I'm kind of curious as to why, so many people are saying no to it. And it's made my wife kind of rethink, well, should I get it? Should I be skeptical of it? Because, why would they be skeptical of it? And, I just kind of rationalize it by saying that just because you work in healthcare, or just because you're a teacher, or just because you work at a nursing home doesn't mean you have the beliefs of everything health is needed, or everything shot wise is needed. And I think that's kind of how I look at it, is not everybody's wired the same way. Everybody has their skepticisms, and everybody, maybe feels like, well, I've already had it and I'm not going to probably get it again. Or if I do get it again, I know I can fight it off. Maybe they've decided that they just simply don't care if they get the virus and they feel like they can battle it. Maybe they feel safer because the people they work with, the nursing home, men and women that live there are getting the vaccine at like a 75, 80% rate. So, there's probably a lot of factors as far as maybe why nursing home staff aren't getting it. And there's probably a lot of factors as to why maybe, when I did that school story, that maybe a lot of school teachers and custodians and lunch people are just deciding, no, I don't need it. So, I've always said it's a personal choice. My personal choice would be to get it just to protect myself and my family. And that's kind of what I choose. But other people may feel safe as they are right now, and that's fine.
Well, I'll admit, I mean, we're going to get it. We're not rushing out, pushing past people to say, I want it right away.
Right.
Our kind of joke was, let's wait and make sure somebody else gets it first, and that way if it's deadly, and not that it's intentionally deadly, but what if it was a horrible vaccine that killed everybody. Yeah, it's kind of tough. I do think it's kind of funny. I I don't have a problem with Mike DeWine. I think it's kind of funny. He gets almost giddy during his press conferences when he talks about showing people get the vaccine. Like he's like, I want you to see you get that. And I know what his point is. He's trying to illustrate to say, hey, the more we show, it's safe and everything else. But
Right.
it sounds like I wonder if there's a YouTube category for that where people would like watching watching people get the COVID vaccine. Like
Yeah.
it's.
I think that was probably like it could have been a one time thing, or maybe you show it for the first few days. I don't know that we need to see.
Yeah,
I don't know that
to show it.
I don't know that we, and it's not because I'm squeamish or anything. It's just like, okay, we get it. It's not a surprise that these healthcare workers that have agreed to get the shot are willing to go on TV. They're not really making it seem like, they should show the everyday Joes more so than health professionals or staff or things like that, or even, trusted officials like himself. Now, I know he can't necessarily get the shot right now just because it's not in his bracket just yet, but soon he will be, because he is 74, so or 72, I think. So soon he will be eligible for it if he wants to take it. I'm sure he will take it on live TV during one of his pressers. But I just feel like once or twice was probably enough to show that people are getting it. And I think they're trying to build up like this trust that, hey, it's just a harmless little thing, and that's why you kind of feel like everybody's got this premeditated speech that they have to say, I didn't even feel it, it felt fine, right. I feel great, or whatever. And it's like, I think it's better just to go with more of a natural approach and just avoid some of this dog and pony show like that we get during these pressers now, where everybody's going to roll up their sleeve and get a shot. Like 2 people are going to do it per show.
I think it's just like YouTube. My daughter likes elevators. Okay, she likes riding elevators. Well, it's COVID. We don't really want to ride elevators during the COVID time. So I think of it and say, hey, let's look at elevators on YouTube, and she gets all excited and everything. So I think maybe showing her one would be okay. So we find one and we show it. 5 hours later, she's still watching freaking elevator clips on YouTube, and I come in, and after the first 2, I'm like, "What are you doing? Your mind's turning into mush." And that's why I kind of think sometimes you watch a lot of vaccinations. I mean, it's good to see people get it. It's good to see it's safe. But the more vaccination videos you watch, it kind of gets, I hate to say creepy, but it kind of gets a little weird after a while.
Yeah, especially when you have that element of, I'm not saying that they're given something to say verbatim, but you kind of feel like some of the people that come on get coached up a little bit, like, hey, hit these key elements and stuff. And I think that it comes across as a little disingenuous sometimes. So that would be like my one criticism every now and then of the press conferences we've seen with certain people that come on, and you can feel like they're reading something off rather than just speaking from the heart. And I think maybe that's where some people have got this, it's drawn the ire of some people, I think, where, they've already had skepticism before, and, you're making it worse by having someone tell their COVID story, and you feel like they're reading something more so than they're just, telling about how their experience really was.
I've got a message to Ohioans. Leave Fran DeWine alone. I think what endeared DeWine to Ohioans when this whole thing first started, I had Amy Acton. I know some people love or hate Amy Acton, but the nice thing about Amy Acton is she spoke like one of us, and she tried to make you feel better and everything else. And I think DeWine learned from that. So DeWine has his wife come on. She shares some stuff around the house, and man, don't look at Twitter after that happens, because everyone's like screaming at Fran DeWine. And I covered Mike DeWine when he was Attorney General. Mike DeWine's old school. I mean, in Mansfield, he came up and he was speaking about like the drug fight when he was Attorney General. And it's first time I met him. And I got to tell you, Mike DeWine's like 2 feet tall. I mean, it astounded me. I mean, I'm not that tall. I'm looking down at him while I was interviewing him. It was kind of crazy. But the other thing is, Mike brings this table. And it's not of his CD or anything. It's of his wife's cookbooks. And he was looking at us in the media going, take a cookbook. And we're like, okay. And some of us didn't take a cookbook. And he said, no, you're taking a cookbook. So we all walked home with a Fran DeWine cookbook. So, hey, it's different. it's strange. I mean, you'll cover a Donald Trump press conference and have him hawk things from his wife. Well, maybe you would, but you never know. But hey, they're in love. They support each other. I know it comes off a little bit strange, but they're trying to be personable during a strange time. So leave Fran DeWine alone.
I think it brings a little levity to the situation. I mean, we're always talking about doom and gloom, and then, every now and then you get one of the reporters asking a question about, I think they've asked questions about Fran's chicken noodle recipe, and someone had before the holidays that had asked about her pie crust, recipe, how she makes her pie crust.
I thought that was weird, though.
Yeah,
I wasn't down with that. Leave Fran DeWine alone. It wasn't like Fran told him to ask that, but I thought that was kind of weird.
I think, with as much scrutiny as journalists can get, especially, in Ohio, even, I don't know if you've felt that over the years, but we certainly have. I felt it yesterday when I prompted to see if anybody had went to the Capitol. I reached out on some Facebook posts about, had anybody, went to the Capitol that day and experienced that situation. And the comments that I got were less than spectacular about me, but that's fine. But yeah, I mean, it is a little odd when probably when you're just a normal Joe watching the press conference and you hear a reporter, instead of getting down and dirty into the questions, it's, oh, what's Fran's pie recipe? How did she make that crust or whatever? I can see why people probably give some people a hard time in our profession when they hear that and think, you guys can ask any question you want. And you're asking about, Fran's chicken and noodle recipe,
The timing of that question was really weird, in my opinion. And again, it was like 2 weeks ago, maybe last week. Time means nothing anymore. It's all become one gooey piece of junk. But no, it was let's say recent press conference where Governor DeWine, he'll talk for the first half hour, and he has 2 a week now about COVID or whatever else he wants to talk about. The reporters ask questions, and this was like halfway through the questioning. Some guy was like, "Oh, I haven't got to talk to you. So, what's Fran's pie recipe?" And it's like, okay, ask him afterwards, because you got to realize when we talk to people, when we talk to sources, we have to be objective. We can't be best buddies and best friends with our sources, but then on the other hand, we can't be a jerk to our sources. Like, we can't go in there and say, "Tell me this, tell me that, tell me everything." Sometimes you have to build a rapport. Sometimes you have to ask about their favorite team or something else they enjoy, and you still get to the point. But I mean, I don't think the pie crust question was a bad question. I think it was just weird. It came at when it came. I'll just leave it at that. But
well, we've heard them say happy birthday to him here in the last couple of days, and
how are you doing? That was weird too.
That was, but from our perspective, it's sort of the way to kind of like you build a rapport. Not that a lot of these people have not talked to Governor DeWine for years now, but it also can help him relax a little bit as a source. And when you ask a question, you may get a better answer when you've kind of lightened the mood, or when you've, the first thing, I don't get down into the meat and potatoes of an interview right away when I'm talking to people. You got to build that, even for sources that I've had for years, you still have to build it up, and you want to let them relax a little bit and maybe be a little looser and a little bit more, calm, and then maybe they might give you a better answer. So that's, I can see that's what they're probably fishing for when they do that. But some of the questions are just kind of, or statements or whatever you want to call it, are just kind of strange at times.
It triggered something to me because it was my birthday too, and I'm just double checking it, and it's true. Mike DeWine and I share a birthday. How about that?
That's awesome. You guys should celebrate.
Yeah, he's older than me, but it's
a little bit older. Yeah.
No, you mentioned that. It kind of made me think. I was watching that. I was working on my birthday. It was interesting. Just I don't know. It struck something. I share a birthday with Mike DeWine. How about that? Isn't that great? Well, we have a couple minutes left. Let's go in these real quick. I got to be honest. I'm not really a baseball fan that much anymore, but it struck me, Indians made another trade yesterday, trading Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco to the Mets for 4 guys I've never heard of. Now, Craig, I'm not sure if you're into baseball that much.
I am.
Have you heard of these guys?
Yeah. I think I don't know that the Indians got enough, but I don't know if you can ever say they got enough when you trade someone like Frankie Lindor. And Carlos Carrasco is a very serviceable pitcher in the big leagues. More than serviceable. That's kind of a disservice to him to call him serviceable. He is a very strong right-handed arm at the top of the rotation. He's going to help the Mets as well. But yeah, Ahmad Rosario is a starting shortstop in this league. And, I think everybody had sort of a strange year last year. He had a down year last season during the COVID shortened season. But in 2019, he had a really productive year. I think he is going to be a good slot in there for Lindor. He's got a few years of club control before he really gets super expensive, and the Indians would probably, consider trading him, to avoid having to pay all that money, assuming he continues his development and becoming a good, well-rounded shortstop. But Andres Jimenez, the other infielder that the Indians received in this trade, if he hadn't played a lot last year, he would still be one of those top 100 young prospects by most baseball, aficionados. And he was a very good pickup in this trade. I think the Indians did really well at the top. And then the other two players, the right-handed pitcher and the outfielder, were top 10 Mets prospects in their system. The Mets don't have a great prospect pool, but, the Indians, I will say that I think the Indians over the years have done fairly well, mining for talent. Guys like Corey Kluber, for instance, come to mind. So I think the Indians have done fairly well as far as, making trades over the years. And I think you probably err on the side of caution when you trade a guy like Lindor. But you also think that, the Indians have had a track record of being able to find diamonds in the roughs with some of these trades. And, they did get a couple of younger guys that are still early in their development. So we'll see how it works out.
Right, but I'm a super casual baseball fan. And I guess the thing that strikes me is you have to spend a certain amount of money if you want to be owners. The Dolans don't do that. And, I think there's way too much money in sports and baseball and everywhere else. But if you can't afford to be in that market, it kind of gets dumb whenever there's a good player like a Lindor or whoever else, you're just like, oh, well, we have to trade him. And like you said, their only chance is to get enough young talent where hopefully instead of just one good player like Lindor, they have like 15 good players at one time, which they had when they had that run in the 90s. It leaves a weird taste in people's mouth. And I guess my advice to Indians fan or Spiders, or whatever they become once they change their name, is if they're not spending the money, you shouldn't spend the money. I mean, tickets are getting very expensive now. Now I'm sounding like the old man and everything, but man, I used to go to games with my dad where you got in games for maybe $10 at the most. Now it's almost $10 at the least, and the tickets go really up. And if you're asking fans to pay such a premium price with parking and everywhere else, it kind of says something when you can't spend the money to keep guys in. And I know the markets are different and everything else, but I mean, Lindor is one guy. I mean, the Mets might pay 10 guys what they're going to pay Lindor. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'll put it that way.
Right. Well, the Indians. I'm a Miami Marlins fan, and if there's ever a team to look at that salary dumps, it's the Miami Marlins. They've done it for years now, whether it's been after World Series victories or just saying, hey, we can't afford a good player, we got to get rid of him. And they went through a huge salary dump rebuild over the last few years, getting rid of Giancarlo Stanton's contract. They got rid of Christian Yelich. They got rid of Marcell Ozuna. JT Realmuto. I mean, so they got rid of all their best players, and a lot of, I was a little hurt because, those were some good players that I thought they could build around, but you kind of realize they didn't win anything with them. And, not that the Indians haven't had success with Lindor, because they certainly have. I mean, they've been to a World Series for, crying out loud. But in this economic time, the Dolans just don't feel like they can spend the money on this ball club. And honestly, you talked about if they're not going to spend the money, then the fans shouldn't spend the money. Well, I got to tell you, Chris, the fans aren't really spending a lot of money in Cleveland. I mean, you look at the 2019, data from attendance, Cleveland was 21st out of 30 teams. So it's not, and they've been a consistent playoff team for, 5 years now or so. Or longer. And, that's got to wane on organizations. I know people aren't going to baseball games as frequently as they once did, and especially in Cleveland when they had that large sellout streak. But people just aren't really going to games anymore now. 19,000 wouldn't be bad if you're a Cavs fan, or but this is the Indians. They have a 40-ish thousand seat stadium in Progressive Field, and they're not even filling up really half the stadium at this point. So, it's not really rocket science to feel like, hey, they're not getting the people coming through the turnstiles, so they're not going to really reinvest in the club as much. Now, one of the caveats there is they do have the TV deal. They had it with Sports Time Ohio. Now, Sports Time Ohio has sort of merged here with Fox Sports to make one sort of conglomerate. But, they really weren't. They spent a little money when they had Sports Time Ohio money coming in. That TV contract kicked in. They signed Edwin Encarnacion and they brought back Carlos Santana. But yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways they just unwisely spent their money to some degree, and that was maybe the problem. Is they reinvested in other areas, and now they're kind of at the end of this.
Yeah, but you got it. Every town's different. Like, Pittsburgh's a great hockey town and a great football town. Pittsburgh doesn't support the Pirates, and same thing with Cleveland. I mean, and you could say what you want about the history of the Indians or whatever, but traditionally they don't do that until the Indians get really good. And when the Indians get really good, a lot of people come. When they don't, they don't. But
the Indians have been really good lately, though. I mean, they're not far removed from a World Series appearance, and I think the Dolans are probably thinking, well, what more can we do to bring out fans consistently, not just for opening day, not just for a July 4th or Memorial Day, not just for like a regular season finale, not just the playoffs.
It's almost like newspaper advertising. I mean, with you try to sell a newspaper ad, and some people say, well, I don't have the money to do it now, so I'll start taking out ads when my business does better. And then you miss the point saying, well, if you take advertising out, more people know about your business, and you can do better. And you'll do better. So, like with the Indians, yeah, I get it. You don't want to spend money you don't have, but in some ways, you almost have to say, okay, we have to. Maybe if we spend more money to get better players, and then the fans start coming because we're going to be better. But the owners, and again, if I was the owner of a baseball team, I'd say I ain't spending money I don't have. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, it's fine. I mean, because I'm like a huge baseball guy, so the Lindor trade didn't really affect me too many ways. Other than the fact it was a busy breaking news day yesterday with U.S. Capitol News, a lot of crazy other stuff. And then the Indians had to trade Francisco Lindor in that day. And I'm working in Northern Ohio. That was a huge story up there.
Yeah.
Indians.
I mean, it's funny. I'm not an Indians fan, but I have a lot of friends that are. And one of my friends, he texts me like, well, what did they get for him? Did they get anybody good? I mean, he's a baseball fan, but he didn't know about some of the younger prospects. And you never know. I mean, it's too early to tell, but there was all these talks about when the Indians were going to have to trade Lindor, what they were going to get. And, when you trade a superstar like that, is it ever enough? I mean, it probably is if you can parlay that into a trade that gives you playoff caliber players that, maybe you get to another World Series or even win a World Series. I mean, that's the ultimate goal for these clubs, is to find a way back into the postseason and win a World Series. And if they do that, then, the trade is a success. I mean, if the Indians win a World Series, not necessarily because of these guys, but if they win a World Series, then it's a success. I mean, that's the way you've got to look at these deals, because Lindor was not able to win one. But, at the end of the day, my friend also said he wishes that, Dan Gilbert, the Cleveland Cavaliers owner, owned the Indians, because the Dolans just don't spend money, and Dan Gilbert would love to spend more money as the Cavs owner. You just have salary cap restrictions in the NBA, and you don't have that in Major League Baseball. So, it'd be interesting to see if the Dolans would ever sell, but they don't seem very interested in selling.
It was a Friday news dump. I mean, that phrase kind of means that sometimes you put out your bad news on Friday afternoons when not many people are paying attention. Well, with U.S. Capitol News and everything, hey, why not trade Francisco Lindor that day? Because, it's going to go over like a lead balloon, but probably won't get as much attention if you wait for a slow day. But Indians, darn you, because for us news guys, we still have to report it. I mean, maybe they didn't get as much attention if nothing was going on. So I blame the Indians. And really, sorry, Craig, I'm not a big baseball guy, so I'm not really upset from a standpoint. I was just upset because it's been a busy week.
Yeah.
And Lindor got traded and I had more work for myself. So that's how I do my newscasts. I just hear and scream about how it's inconveniencing my time at work. So that's great. Hey, I don't want to talk about this anymore because I want to talk about food. We talked about food the other day. It went really well. And then a bunch of people stormed the U.S. Capitol. We couldn't talk about food. So let's talk about food. Subway, and this picture isn't super big, but you see it here, the protein bowl they're debuting, which I thought was kind of interesting. What they're doing is it's filled with the meat that you would get from a normal sandwich. So, like you say, I want a Subway club. They put the meat in from the club along with salad. It's $6.99. And I got to tell you, we had a story here on the podcast recently about how Subway is doing sugar bread. That's what their bread's based off. And I got to be honest, Craig, it grossed me out and everything. I've been in the Subway since. I'm kind of down with this. Protein bowl. Now, it's kind of a salad, but it's more meat than salad.
Right.
I don't know about the price point. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the website looking at it and just to see if there's like a scale of how big it is. But yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Subway fan out there. I'll go there every once in a blue moon. But yeah, I've never really thought Subway, they either have a big sandwich or it's a little tiny sandwich. You have to get double meat and all that stuff just to feel like you've eaten a sandwich. But I mean, yeah, if these protein bowls are bigger, $6.99 is kind of expensive for, I guess it would be a meat salad, I would suppose. I mean, I'm not sure.
Here's another picture of that here.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I understand their desire to try something different and thinking outside the box because, a lot of people are conscious about, the carbohydrates and things that they're eating. So I get that. Will it be a big seller? Who knows? I mean, it will be easier for them to prepare. I don't know. Maybe it's pre-prepared. I don't know how they do it, but it will be interesting to see if this is something that can help sort of take them over the top, I guess, or maybe it will allow another section of customers that maybe they never have had because they've offered, the big doughy bread, although they do have flatbreads there as well that they, use for breakfast and things like that. So, we'll see what happens. And it probably can't hurt. Try something new.
Might get me go back to Subway. I'll tell you, hopefully whenever this pandemic ends, which may be years, who knows, I want to review more food. I want these places to send food to me or DoorDash to us. And we can start reviewing on the air. But but it looks interesting. I just was a little bit grossed out about the bread situation. So this might get me to go back. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Might be
all right. What's that?
It might be worth a try,
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that was the Ohioan podcast for today. Like I said, so many ways of connecting with us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Honestly, Craig, there's 4 other podcast services I never even heard of before. So, check those out. If we're missing any, let us know. We'll do our best to add it. Also check our website, viewfromthepew.club. And just, keep in touch. The interview podcast I'm enjoying too. Keep listening to those as well. Now, I will tell you, Craig, it's been an ambitious first week. We've had 2 podcasts a day for the first 5 days, but I'm glad to announce, Craig, nothing personal. We don't do weekend podcasts. So don't get up at 6 on the weekend and say, man, I gotta crank up my YouTube and check these guys out because we're not going to be there.
Yeah,
but we'll be back on Monday.
Yeah, I can't wait to sleep in. I was, Thursdays I've had this ritual of kind of staying up a little bit later because it's the weekend almost. So it's like, I can stay up a little bit later and, get through the work day, even though we usually, like you said, have those Friday news dumps. But I told my wife yesterday, I'm like, well, I got to get to bed soon because I got to get up at 5 o'clock. I can't just, and I don't want to slog through an entire 5 o'clock through a whole work day and then, stay up late on the weekend type of guy. So it's it's kind of tough, but yeah, I still went to bed late probably compared to some people, but I don't know. I've always been an early bird, so it's fine with me to wake up early.
Definitely. Well, and yeah, like I said, connect with us. It should be good. We'll be back Monday morning, and it could be a rough Monday morning on Steelers and Browns play Sunday night in the playoffs. And not even just if the Steelers win or lose, they're playing at night. And it's kind of tough when we have to get up at 6 next morning for a podcast. So I don't know. Maybe we should do the podcast when the game's over. Or a midnight podcast. How about that? But no, it'll be – I'm a little nervous. I feel pretty good about them winning, but you never know. So just so much going on. So U.S. Capitol, I'm looking at the TV now. Not much else is happening from that. A couple more national officials have resigned. Latest Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. I'm sure that will be breaking over the weekend. So fall news. And I'll tell you, let's give a plug for where we work for. Gannett newspapers, part of USA Today Network. Check out dispatch.com, cincinnati.com, 19 other papers around the state. And we all combine our forces together. There was a big announcement made yesterday. They're merging the Cincinnati and Columbus State House offices. So, and again, it's all for better coverage. It's all for more comprehensive coverage. And even Craig works with one of our smaller papers in Fremont. We share all the content all around the state. So even if you don't not only get local news, but you also get state news too. So definitely check it out. Craig, congratulations. We made it for the first week. And we're ready for another week. Let's hang out for a sec afterwards. And everybody else, have a great day.
Have a great weekend, guys.